Yo, what's up, and welcome into the opening line, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. You already know myself, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, my main man, Benny Ricciardi, but chilling with us today, live. Well, not live. When y'all watch it, it won't be live. It's live now. But chilling with us today all the way from California is my man, Rusell Clay. Russell, what's good with you, big dog?
What's up, man? Yeah. Well, Arizona, California,
West Coast,
same thing. But yeah, it's all sleeveless shirts and sunburns over here.
That's wonderful because, Benny, I was thinking to myself, man, we done had 3 Yankee Red Sox games. Yankees done had 2 homestands, and I'm still walking around with a sweatshirt on.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I mean, we had like a couple nice days a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden it got cold again. So that's the way it is. That's why I've been doing shows with sweatshirts on all damn week. And even in my house, it's cold. We kind of turned the heat off because it got warm, and then, it's been getting cold over here lately. But, I'm excited today, Corey. This is a big day in American history here today. I mean, there's been a lot of evidence going on. There's been a lot of studying going on. And we finally are going to get the report today that we've all been waiting for.
Yes.
That's why we got Russ on for our draft report, baby.
It's so funny. We just happened to be on at the same time, recording at the same time the homeboys having the press conference. But today will be an interesting day on Twitter none the least. But we're going to talk a little sports, talk a little NFL draft, a lot of NFL draft, and some fantasy football also. Russell, before long we get into it, how about you just give everybody a quick rundown of your background in this industry, where you come from, what you've been doing and stuff like that. Because I've seen your name for a while, but I'm like, where do I know son from?
I've pretty much been roaming the fantasy football world for about a decade now. I was at PFF for a while.
Okay, I remember that.
Dynasty League football for a little while. I've been all over the place, but yeah, I'm happy to be part of the Guru and Guru Elite family now. I did college football DFS last year with Ryan Clifford and Scott Bondar, so that was fun. We'll be doing that again this year, and been a part of Guru for probably 8 months now, and I'm loving it, man. I love this group.
No doubt it is. It definitely is a cool group, and glad to have you on board. And college football DFS, we can't do that on this side of town, right, Benny? Like I remember 2 or 3, maybe not 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I had a dude that would give me some DFS college lineups, and they used to hit the nuts all the time. You know what I'm saying? But now that's gone for us. At least in New York, we can't do that.
I don't know. We were allowed to do it in Jersey after the UIGA decision and all that came down. When they started offering sports betting in New Jersey, we were allowed to play DFS. But it was like the end of the season, right? They didn't start it from the beginning.
It like cut in 2 weeks before the college season started, and then we got talking about doing. Yeah, it was like right there, and then DK and FanDuel was like, "All right, let's go."
Yeah, if you're gonna allow us to do it again, we're gonna do it. And right. I think last year too, like the pools weren't as big as they were like pre-shutdown a couple years ago. So like this year, it'll probably be back to. I don't know if it'll be back to where it was at the apex, but we're probably going to see bigger pools and more money on it this year too, which is fun, man. I mean, Corey, we were talking about it the other day. When you play college DFS, like, there's 30 points scored in an NFL game. There's 70 points scored in a college game sometimes. Like, you got guys that are putting up like 50, 60, 70 fantasy points. So it gets fun.
I remember when I was playing, my go-to quarterback every week would be Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
Dak Prescott, when he was in Mississippi State, he gave you that running action, and he passed the football as well. But me as a Dallas Cowboy fan, me and Dak Prescott have had our ups and downs, but I am glad to say that that is my quarterback. Every time I talk about Dak Prescott, he will remind me I have a nickname for Dak Prescott. I call him All Lives Matter Prescott. But he's still my quarterback, so I got to ride with Dak Prescott. Listen, one thing I will say about Dak Prescott is he's been a starting quarterback for 3 years. He has 2 division championships underneath his belt, so, But I do think it can be some improvement to his game, and hopefully that's something that him and Kellen Moore can work on. Obviously, that Kellen Moore hire as Dallas's OC was a Dak Prescott hire. But let's get ready to hop in there and talk about some of this stuff, Russ. And I want to talk about some of the team, the bigger name players. I want to start with some of the bigger name players that changed uniforms over the past couple of months. particularly Le'Veon Bell and obviously Antonio Brown, two dudes have been at the top of fantasy football draft boards for the past couple of years now. Now they both have new digs. Left Bell with the New York Jets and AB out there with the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, I think we like both of those situations for volume, but it's not Pittsburgh anymore. You know, they're going to teams that are sort of trying to rebuild their offenses, and they're coming in to be not only the guy, but franchise changers, specifically offensively. So I'm cautiously optimistic about 2019 for both of them. But, you know, Bell's really tied to Darnold because if Darnold's good, I think Bell's going to, you know, crush. But if Darnold is still developing in year 2, there could be some really ugly weeks for him where he gets those 20 to 25 rushing attempts and they go for 3 yards a carry. So I like him. I think he's a guy that's going to produce fantasy-wise for the next couple of years. But it's really all about Darnold for me there. And then we'll see what Derek Carr can stir up with Brown. It's certainly not going to be Big Ben, you know, 2015 Antonio Brown. But I think he'll be, you know, a WR1.
So both of these guys for, you know, the last couple of years as teammates on the Steelers have both been first-round picks. Do we think the volume is still going to justify both of them being first-round picks going forward, you know, this year, next year for fantasy too?
I think with Bell, yes. The worries for me are like 27-year-old running back with major injuries and then, you know, those 400 touch seasons, or not quite 400, but he had like 350 in 12 games that one year. Mm. So it's really, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be fine for fantasy. You know, he's going to be fine for fantasy, but yeah, he's right in that range where it's like, well, 27, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'm hoping, as a Jets fan, as you can see, I'm hoping we get at least 1 or 2 good years out of him.
Right. Exactly.
That'd be good. That'd be important right there. I think he's still a top of the first round, like you said, Russell. I think the volume is important for that. When it comes to Antonio Brown, I think you can start to see AB on that 1-2 turn. I haven't really gotten to a lot of early best balls yet, but that'd be my guess that will be where he is going. One of the things that I remember last time I really got a chance to talk fantasy football was back in early February, and the rumble about that at that time, Russell, was Pat Mahomes being a first-round draft pick, especially in a league where you get 6 points per touchdown pass. I see you shaking your head, Benny. But, Russ, I don't think Pat Mahomes in a 6 point per touchdown pass league, somewhere in between 110 and 112, I don't think that's terrible, put it like
that. That's a tough one. So I think we have to do a few things with Pat Mahomes. We have to adjust for the regression eventually coming, because it's always happened with guys who throw 50 touchdowns in a season. They kind of, zoom down a little bit here. But I also don't like what people are doing with Mahomes, where it's like, all right, he's going to just be a slightly above average QB1. Like, he's probably going to be the QB1 again. I mean, Alex Smith was dominant for 2 years, and that was Alex Smith in that system. So I think we can still plug in Mahomes for 40 touchdowns, which sounds stupid, but I mean, he's just so incredible that, barring a Kelsey, or we'll see what happens with Tyreek Hill. That's really the only worry, but I don't know about first round, but second, third round, I definitely think about Mahomes, especially you mentioned 6 per pass TD. That's getting into a 3 to 4 point a week advantage at QB. So yeah, that's legit there.
Good, and you were shaking your head like no shot.
Well, I mean, again, when you said the 6 points at the end, that's when I was like, all right, maybe you can make the case for it. I don't think any quarterback is worthy of, in a 4-point touchdown league, I don't think any quarterback is worthy of being taken, even before, like, the 5th round. And that's just kind of the way I've always built my team, and I've always kind of thought, like, and even then, I'm probably still waiting to 7th or 8th round to see who's around that I can still grab there. In a 6-point league, though, like you said, now you got to start thinking about it a little bit more. I still don't know if I'd go in the first round to get him. But, I mean, listen, I agree. I think he is going to regress a little bit. But regressing a little bit to 43 or 44 touchdowns, he's still a stud quarterback. Like, it's not like he's going to suck. But he did put together a pretty magical season last year.
No doubt. And I think the Tyreek Hill point is an excellent one right there because obviously the ability to have Tyreek Hill on the field makes it much easier for Pat Mahomes with that speed and Mahomes' skill set. It kind of goes on perfectly. Haven't heard too much about his latest legal troubles in a couple of weeks now, but obviously we'll keep you updated on that. Russ, I think every year, going back to years I've had success in season-long fantasy, it's always been these years where I find the quarterback. I remember the year Kelvin Benjamin tore his ACL, Cam Newton dropped. Talk about way off the board. In one league, I got Cam Newton in the 18th round. He won the MVP that year. The next year I came back, I found Matt Ryan. He won the MVP that year. Last year it was Pat Mahomes. It was Andrew Luck. Who is that quarterback this year? Can you pinpoint? Because I'm trying to wrap my brains around it. I'm thinking possibly Jameis Winston, but I've been thinking Jameis Winston for a couple of years now. But who is that quarterback that you think is going to be that guy that kind of falls outside of that top 7, 8 that could be the steal on draft, that could end up as a top 2 or 3 fantasy passer?
Well, I'll give you one who I do think. So you kind of mentioned you've been on Winston for a few years, and I think that's an interesting guy this year with Arians there. I've been waiting on this Aaron Rodgers resurgence for a few years now, and I've been placing those bets, like on the roulette wheel, and they just keep taking my money. But if he can stay healthy, and that's not a automatic thing at this point, but man, like, he's still so good. And I think he played all last year, pretty majorly hurt, and he talked about his injury recently. If he's healthy, he has Devonta Adams. If they bring in a wide receiver in the even second or third round, I think he's back to that 35 touchdown, 4,000 passing yard season year. And, I think you can get him at a reasonable price for what Aaron Rodgers costs. So I like him. And Matthew Stafford was awful last year, pretty much an embarrassment. One of the worst fantasy quarterbacks that played significant times. But I think he has enough of a track record where I could see him jump back to 2016, 2017 numbers and kind of salvage a year. I don't see him doing the Matt Ryan or the other one you mentioned there, but I think he can return to like startable status in 2019.
So we're looking ahead already for some of our, NFL drafts and everything that's coming along here for fantasy wise. Other than Le'Veon Bell, because that's obviously a big change, is there another guy that kind of switched teams that you're saying, that's a great fit for him? This guy's going to be somebody in fantasy that, we really got to start moving up our boards for draft season?
I think you have to look to Jared Cook in New Orleans, and I think we're all assuming this dream was going to end, after his amazing 2018 season, but the targets may not be there, but the efficiency certainly is. And I think we've seen time and again, Drew Brees just makes everyone in that offense amazing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Jared Cook is a guy I was ready to, all right, throw in the dumpster. He had one good year in Oakland and, well, kind of 2 good years, but that second year where he was the only guy. But, yeah, New Orleans might be able to keep it going, man. He's having this nice second half of his career, and, hey, good for him.
Hey, let me tell you something, Russ. All the Goonies already know. You know what I'm saying? You said a name that kind of just took the life out of me just now, because I have swore that I would never, ever, ever again, that it wasn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. I call him, I don't know if you know this, but I call him Bigfoot. And the reason why I call him Bigfoot is because I always hear about it, but I've never seen it. And when he went to the Saints, I was like, here we go again with Jared Cook. Like, I legit think I did something wrong with Jared Cook, because Jared Cook is always hanging on the waiver wire. And you get to the bye weeks and you're like, oh, this is Jared Cook. He had 4 catches last week. And then you put him in your lineup and he'll have 3 catches. Next week he'll have 4 catches. The next thing you know, all right, well, cool, I can play Jared Cook. And then it's week 12, and you need to get in the playoffs, and Jared Cook has the best matchup, and he gives you that Jared Cook donut.
1 for 13.
Yeah, that 1 for 13,
Oh, yeah.
that 1.3 in the PPR. And I'm like, oh, no, Jared Cook, you did it to me again. Listen, hey, the Cook thing is interesting, Vinny, because he's playing with Drew Brees, but I'm like, it's gonna come on somebody else's dime. And for me,
you know what?
Best ball. That's it. I can't do my regular leagues.
Yeah, there were people who took what's the guy's name? Hill, the tight end that they had there, just because he's playing with Drew Brees. At least Cook's got some talent. You know what I mean?
Josh Hill, but Ben Watson was the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Ben Watson was on fantasy teams last year because Drew Brees was his quarterback. So, this is probably the most talented tight end he's had since Jimmy.
Corey, I'll give it to you. Jared Cook was on I'm the guy that had him every year, and when he'd get like 300 yards the whole season. So I'm usually that guy. So I'll take him this year too. And when he gets, 400 yards by week 15, you won't have to worry about him.
Then we'll be in that boat together. Jared Cook, you son of a gun. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing the fantasy luck that I've had with Jared Cook. I wouldn't be surprised. I was talking with Benny about this yesterday. I think we're going to see Julio Jones go in the second round. I'm seeing, I haven't seen it, but I've heard that Devonta Freeman is in that 5th round range. And I'm like, man, Freeman as an RB3, fully healthy, is a steal. Julio Jones, I think, is a player that I like a lot going into this year, mainly because that connection that he's had with Dirk Cutter in the past. What do you think about some of these pieces on the Falcons offense that people may be overlooking?
Oh, yeah, I dig it. Freeman with no Coleman. I'm sure they're going to bring in somebody. I don't think Ito Smith.
Ito had looked like a goal line back last year.
Yeah, he'll be in the rotation, but I don't see him splitting carries with Freeman or anything. So I'd imagine they bring somebody in. But, yeah, Freeman is the lead back there if he's healthy. And I'm kind of an Austin Hooper and best ball guy where he's going to be there every week. He'll have some red zone weeks, maybe get a couple multi-touchdown weeks like he did last year, and just kind of be there with that 500 or 600 receiving yards for you. So I don't mind him. And then Julio is, there's no regression coming with that guy. I can remember early 20s when we were all worried about his knees, and we thought he was going to be the guy to sort of fall off first. And now you look, everyone's 30 with Dez and Demarius and all these guys, and he's the one that's still chugging along. So, I think he's going to have another big year, like you mentioned. Second round Julio, I'm signing up for that.
So you could probably end up there's probably going to be draft spots at the end where you get a 10 or a 12 in a 12-team draft where you can get Antonio Brown and Julio Jones this year as your first 2 rounds.
And then but then when you do it running back when you come back, and I guess that's what we're trying to find out today as we take our kind of first little peek behind the curtain as we get ready for the NFL draft. Before we start talking about some of these prospects, I just want to touch on a couple of interesting things right quick. A couple of quick hitters. Is there going to be any fantasy value for anybody that wears a Miami Dolphin uniform this year?
Well, we get to see Kenyon Drake with someone who doesn't hate him as the offensive coordinator, so that'll be interesting. Beyond that, so we're talking about guys that have killed us. I was a Devontae Parker guy, and
that's it. That's over.
And just as a courtesy to him, I put him on my roster every fantasy season. I don't expect anything, but he'll be my first guy off the waiver wire when he has that one big week a year. And
I was just gonna say that he'll have one game for you. Yeah. He'll have one game where he might win for you, and you'll play him 9 weeks because of it.
What else do we got? Joe Mixon. Is the Joe Mixon breakout coming?
I love Joe Mixon. Yeah, I saw a lot of things to like with him last year. That team kind of fell apart around him, and he still performed pretty well at the end of the year, specifically in some of the fantasy playoff weeks. So, yeah, really talented all-around back, and, Andy Dalton's there, so there will be dump-offs, and, yeah.
I didn't have him anywhere last year. I kind of regret that. Like you said, he was good down the stretch, so I think I can slide back into Joe Mixon this year, depending on where he's going. I'm going to throw this one at you right quick, Benny. Are you a Jimmy Garoppolo guy?
I liked Garoppolo, but again, he's one of these guys that I'm kind of targeting. You know, you play in the Scott Fish Bowl with the 2-quarterback league. I think he's going to fall kind of far, and I think he's going to be somebody we can get, you know, probably round 12, round 15, somewhere in there because he missed all last season. So I would be looking to take him around that time.
Russ, let me guys go ahead on Garoppolo. My bad.
Julio's going at pick 15 in best ball drafts right now.
That's
so
perfect.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
That's perfect. I like it right there because, like you said, you can grab. Well, I guess by that point, you got to see how the draft shake out. If you had to take one of these second-year running backs, Kerryon Johnson or Darius Geis, which one would it be?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah,
that's why they brought me here, Russ.
That's a great question. At this point with Geis, I want to see him on the field. I want to see what's going on with that. I loved him out of LSU. I thought he was a pretty special talent, but Kerryon looked really good last year, and I kind of had to do I wasn't too high on him as a prospect, but you got to give him credit. He looked great last year, so I'd lean him currently. But once I see a preseason game with Geis hopping around and looking back like his old self, I'll be back in. But for now, Johnson.
There's probably a lot of value going on right now if you're playing best balls with the Darius Geis, because he could wind up being a guy who should be picked 2 or 3 rounds earlier than he is being picked right now, or he could wind up being somebody who you shouldn't have picked at all. We don't really know. So there's always that, like, that high ceiling thing with him there where you could be getting some value, which, again, if you're doing best balls at this time of year, it's something you try to go off.
And I think that's the key is this time of year. I told everybody a couple years ago, not this past season, but 2 seasons ago, the dude that won the fantasy football world championship drafted his team on May 14th. Yep. And it really was how much, like, he had Kareem Hunt, and I was just like, oh, he hit on all the low round picks.
But that's what you need to do to win one. Like, if you're going to win an overall championship, you need to hit on a lot of that stuff.
But most people are scared to draft early because they're afraid that an injury is going to happen in preseason. But Benny, we know scared money don't make money.
And that's, I mean, you know what? The thing is, though, you got to look at it as the upside. Like, you can't play it safe if you're trying to go win big money in one of these things. If you can get, you can have a chance right now to get 3 or 4 guys that 2 months from now are going to be going 3 or 4 rounds earlier than they are. You could put together an all-star team if you hit on those guys. A lot of it is kind of rolling the dice, but if you're following the situations, you know where the smart bets are, where the smart things that could happen is. Like Atlanta, we were talking about before, is a great example. If Atlanta brings in another running back behind Devonta Freeman, given Freeman's track record of not finishing seasons out without an injury, that guy could wind up being somebody who has a lot of value that doesn't get drafted until late in the draft here. Things like that is what can help you win. I mean, I remember one year as well, what was it in Pittsburgh when they had Le'Veon Bell and then they had D'Angelo Williams there. I picked up D'Angelo Williams in the late round of an early draft. When Le'Veon Bell went down, I wound up having, I think it was like the running back 4 on that season.
I think one of those years that Le'Veon Bell had a drug suspension, D'Angelo Williams was an RB1 every week he started. And that's especially with that Pittsburgh ground game producers we saw from James Conner last year. A couple more right quick I want to hop on. Is there anything – before I get to that, Marcus Mariota, where are we at with Marcus Mariota? I'm like, this guy's – I don't think he's ever really going to be healthy. I'm not saying that he's going to be a flaming bust, but I'm like, I can't buy the Marcus Mariota thing no more. As a QB2, okay, I probably will find somebody I like better, but I don't know if I could do Marcus Mariota no more. What's the latest on Mariota? He is getting another new OC this year, right?
Yes, I believe so. I just am in amazement of the dynamic duo between him and Ryan Tannehill. That is a special group of injury-riddled quarterbacks. And I mean, I'd put it at maybe not 100%, but 98% that Tannehill plays multiple games this year. Just, yeah, I think like you mentioned, Mariota is a super talented player and was a super talented prospect, but he just can't stay healthy. And that's a huge thing. And we have a pretty sizable track record on him now. They can protect him all they want, but he still likes to run. And we see time and again what happens with guys who like to run and not protect themselves. Carson Wentz is another one where it's like, dude, chill out, man. Like, stop running into linebackers every week, please.
Notice Russell Wilson don't have that problem. And that's why Russell Wilson just got that big $400 billion contract, because Russell Wilson know how to get his ass out of bounds.
That's right.
Not play for that extra yard. You know what I'm saying, Benny?
Yeah, so you know what? Keeping with this running quarterback theme here, Russ, what is your thoughts on Lamar Jackson coming into this year? Because let's face it, especially as a fantasy guy and a guy that plays a lot of DFS, those rushing yards are incredibly valuable. But when you're talking season long, you just kind of mentioned it. That's a lot of hits that guy's going to be taking throughout the year if he's going to be running the ball, double-digit times every game. So there's upside there, but at the same time, I think it carries a lot of risk. But I hear a lot of people talking about him now that this is his job.
Yeah, him and Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the perfect running quarterback because he was in for like 5 weeks towards the end of the year, and he could just go, and you're just picking him up off the waiver wire. Jackson certainly has crazy upside and a crazy floor, as you mentioned, because of the running ability. So from a fantasy perspective, I'm in. It's just, how long is it going to last? He's not a big dude. He's incredibly athletic, but we're seeing, and I do the same thing with Deshaun Watson. Like, I love Deshaun Watson, and I think he's amazingly talented, but please stop Deshaun Watson. Please stop. Like, you just see him every week and they're flipping over guys, and it's like, all right, man, just
like that. You quarterback on that rookie contract trying to prove himself. The way you prove yourself is by staying on the field. So I throw this one out here to both of you, and then we'll start to get into some NFL draft talk. What round, Russell, are you willing to pull the trigger on Leonard Fournette?
Oh, yeah. Well, did you see he paid his speeding ticket? So with the registry, man. That's the first step.
I'm waiting for the next one, though.
Yeah, you don't want to be in trouble with the registry, let me tell you. But yeah, I'm in on him again. I'm just rolling with it. Like the roulette wheel again. I'm just placing my bets back down. I saw enough in his rookie year to think he's a talented dude, and yeah, I'm rolling with it again. Probably the third round, second round. I'd imagine by redraft season, a few months from now, he'll be in the second again. But you can get a pretty good deal on him right now. What's he going? He's going 28th overall, so like third round. So.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking too. Like beginning of the third round, if I had like a top 4 or 5 pick and he's still available when it comes around to me for the third round, I'd definitely take him at that point. It's my second round.
I would probably have to go fourth. I guess I'm not as sold as I don't know. I never was a real big fan of him. Then I missed his rookie year. Then last year I took a sprinkle, and I was like, I told y'all. And this year I'm like, I'm gonna stay away. But with a starting running back, if you get him at a value, I think that's a good thing. But you want to start get ready to talk some draft stuff, because once again, when you have 3 people on, this thing kicks you off early. So unfortunately, we only got like another 10 minutes left to go. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so hey, let's get into it. I think the first question is, number 1 overall. Yeah, you have Kyler Murray there. Do you really think that they're going to take him number 1 overall?
That's everything. I track all the people I respect are like, this is it. So, that's what I'm going with. There are some interesting defensive players at the top, but it just seems like they've almost telegraphed this at this point. So
they have him listed on the DraftKings Sportsbook to be the number 1 overall pick as -715.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's going to happen. That's going to be the situation in Arizona. Russ, every year we see rookie running backs finish as a top 12 fantasy running backs. This year, you can't figure out who that guy is going to be. At least I haven't dug deep enough into it yet. Who do you think is the running back that's going to have the biggest impact for fantasy owners, the rookie running back that have the biggest impact for fantasy owners in 2019?
Yeah, like you said, Corey, every year there's at least one guy, even in bad classes. So I'm looking at 3 guys, maybe 4, and I'm kind of placing bets on all of them and hoping, one of them really hits. But I think Penn State running back Miles Sanders is really interesting. Memphis running back Darrell Henderson is really interesting. He's like super explosive. Josh Jacobs from Alabama seems to be the consensus favorite for the scouts out there. And then I like his Alabama teammate, Damian Harris, who started over him. So I like that core 4, and that's kind of who I'm taking my bets on this offseason.
That's interesting because one of the props that kind of stuck out to me when I was looking at him, over under on running backs drafted in the first round, 0.5. Now, there's a little juice to it. It's minus 200 to the over, plus 150 to the under. But it was interesting to see it was that low at a position that, most people say isn't important to draft high anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, this is a weak class. And before Daniel Jeremiah came out and said, Josh Jacobs, my 5th overall player one week. And I was like, whoa, what? This guy was like a part-time player in college for Alabama. So it makes sense. But that's really the only guy I see getting close to the first round. So I would bet the under on that. But
plus 150, that's a pretty good number.
Oh, and I'm going to bet it too. No doubt. Listen, when it comes to the wide receivers, I keep hearing about DK Metcalf. And I'm like, listen, don't give me no look like Tarzan, play like Jane. That's what comes to mind when I see DK Metcalf. What's the breakdown on Metcalf?
I mean, the dude
I'm a Marquise Brown guy.
Yeah, he is Tarzan. Like if he swung in from a rope, I'd be like, yeah, okay. 4.33 at 228 pounds. That dude is a monster. The big question for me, I don't really question his ability. I mean, people talk about Josh Gordon, and obviously I don't think he's going to be, prime Josh Gordon, but he could be a guy that cornerbacks just can't handle. Like we could be in week 3 and it's like they just can't cover this dude. That really could be a situation, but the injuries are what worries me. He wasn't healthy his whole career. I mean, he had his his redshirt freshman sophomore season. He stayed healthy, but he was recovering from that major injury. Got major injury his freshman year, major injury his junior year. That's where I'm worried, man. I don't know how many years we're going to get of that guy.
One of the things that's kind of interesting when you look at a lot of the mock drafts this year, there's a lot of guys, defensive linemen, defensive ends that are projected to be going in the first round. I mean, even the DraftKings over-under on defensive linemen in the first round is about 10.5 here.
Wow.
That's a lot. But when you look through the list, you see a lot of names that you know are going to go high. I mean, they have 3 guys in most of the mock drafts you look at, 3 D linemen going in the top 5 with guys like Bosa, Williams, and Allen. How do you think those 3 guys are going to fare in the NFL? And do you think that that's probably the way they get drafted with, Bosa coming off first and then probably Williams followed by Allen?
Got 4 minutes left, and I got one more I want to get in.
Sure. Yeah. I think those 3, this has been a pretty hype class for a couple of years now, especially from a college football DFS perspective. Like you were aware of these guys, for a couple of years. So, when guys stand out like this in college football at any position, you kind of expect them to, I think they're going to be impact players for sure.
Let me ask you about a couple quarterbacks right quick before we hop out of here. Dwayne Haskins and one of my personal favorites are Stidham.
I love Dwayne Haskins. I think he is fantastic. I expect him to be a long-term starter. Everyone likes Murray. I actually have Haskins as, my guy this year. But, I expect him to be good for a long time, and he doesn't run, so I like him. Stidham, underrated at this point, a former highly touted guy, and could be someone who sits for a few years, but, I definitely think he has starter potential.
See, the thing I like about Stidham has victories at Alabama and at Georgia. A lot of people in college football can't say – well, Johnny Manziel did too, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know Stidham's background, but I don't. I don't think it's that. You know what I'm saying?
He's probably not at the club every night. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying though, those kind of victories stand out. But anyway, what you hoping the Jets do in the first round?
I mean, to be honest, there's so many holes that they have to fill. What I really hope the Jets do in the first round is trade down.
Yeah, there you go.
Get some extra picks, get a couple other things, get some second rounders back that they lost last year by trading with with the Colts to move up for Sam Darnold. So, that's really what I'm hoping they do is fill a couple holes. We got a lot of them.
No doubt. Before we get ready to get up out of here, don't forget tomorrow me and Benny will not be on here as we get ready to head into the holiday weekend. Less than a minute to go. Russell, did my Cowboys make the right choice not drafting a wide receiver in the first round this year but making that trade for Amari Cooper? Does anybody in this draft class have Amari Cooper upside, wide receiver-wise?
I think N'Keal Harry does, but I like what they did with Cooper. I think that solves an instant need, and he's already ready. So, yeah, I like that quite a bit.
Don't forget, me and Benny tomorrow. Thank you for rocking with us. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us a like. Video will be posted, and we get up out there. My main man, Rusell Clay, thanks for waking up with us. We'll get you back on here next weekend and get this situated so we can take the full allotment of time. You know what I'm saying, my man?
Absolutely, man. Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Don't forget, Elite Fantasy, the opening line part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. We are out till next week.